Hey guys, today I'm here to wrap up what I read for the 2016 BookTube-A-Thon, and just to get the big challenge out of the way, no, I did not read 7 books in a week, but I didn't really expect that to happen. So what I did accomplish during the readathon was 3 completed books. 2 of those were physical books and 1 was an audiobook, and then I did get partially into a 4th book. So I'm gonna go through these in the order that I read them in. The first book that I picked up and completed during the readathon was Summer by Edith Wharton, which was originally published in 1917 and is about a young woman named Charity. Now Charity lives in a very small town called North Dormer, which is located somewhere in the American Northeast. North Dormer is so small that there's only a church and a small memorial library where she works, and then aside from kind of the families that have been living in the area for generations, that's kind of it. Charity lives with her benefactor, Mr. Royale, who brought her down from the mountain when she was just a little girl and never officially adopted her, and seems to have designs on marrying her now that she is of age. Charity has kind of mixed feelings about Mr. Royale. She sometimes loves him, sometimes hates him, and yet she's very aware how lucky she is to live with him because the mountain where she comes from has this reputation of being a lawless place, a place where people are vagabonds and poor and inbred, and it's just basically not a place you'd want to come from. So although Charity realizes that she is very lucky to live with Mr. Royale in North Dormer, she's also incredibly bored and thus is very excited when a handsome young man named Mr. Harney comes to town to study the local architecture. Now, I've never read anything by Edith Wharton before, and I thought this was actually a very good introduction. It is not that long. It's only just over 100 pages, and the story is beautifully written yet very simple, so it wasn't like a slog of a classic novel to get through. One thing I was really impressed by was Wharton's descriptive abilities. She described the scene and the setting so beautifully well that I really felt like I could picture what kind of a landscape Charity was living in, and I also thought she wrote the tension between Mr. Royale and Charity phenomenally. On the other hand, though, I only ended up giving this 3 stars on Goodreads because the story felt very predictable, and maybe that was just because I had finished reading a nonfiction book that very heavily described what kind of stories Wharton writes, but I just felt like I could totally see it coming. It wasn't surprising or shocking. I wasn't particularly sympathetic for Charity when what does happen with Harney happens, because I did see it coming. So beautifully written, and definitely will check out more of her work, but I did only give this one 3 stars. And I should probably mention that this counted for the Read a Book That Is Older Than You challenge. So 1 challenge completed. Then I listened to an audiobook, which was not on my original TBR, but that I had checked out from the library and had to listen to before I had to send it back. So that was Argo, How the CIA and Hollywood Pulled Off the Most Audacious Rescue in History, and this was written by Antonio Mendez and Matt Baglio. Now, I haven't seen the film Argo, so I can't tell you how closely they compare to each other, but this was the same general story. It was the story of how Antonio Mendez, when he worked at the CIA, helped break out several Americans who had escaped from the US Embassy when it was overrun by Iranian revolutionaries. I thought it was incredibly fascinating, and I really liked how it gave an inside look at how the CIA works on exfiltration missions like this. So rather than infiltrating an organization or a country, in pulling people out and, you know, saving your operatives and saving your intel. In the end, I think I gave this one 3 stars as well, and I kind of concluded that I probably should have read this one in physical form simply because there were so many people that Mendez was talking about that I was just getting very confused. He talks about some of his CIA cohorts, he talks about the Americans they're trying to exfiltrate, and he talks about different diplomats in different countries and different embassies, and there were just too many names for me to keep track of. I will say, however, if you're into spy thrillers, fictional spy thrillers, I think you'll really like this. It reads like a piece of fiction, and it was just very, very thrilling. Then for the final book that I read and completed during the readathon, I picked up Farewell to Manzanar by Jean Wakatsuki Houston and her husband James D. Houston. Now this was the book that I picked for Read a Book with Yellow on the cover because, as you can see, there's yellow here and here. This is the story of Jean and her family as they were were evacuated in the middle of World War II to internment camps along with countless other Japanese American families. And it's just a really honest and detailed and important look at what life was like for Japanese Americans living in these internment camps. This is an aspect of World War II I was actually pretty familiar with already going into this book, because when I was in high school, I took AP US history and I had taken world history before that, and they always kind of mentioned, oh yeah, in the US interned Japanese Americans, but they never really went into it. So I specifically went out of my way to pick that as a topic whenever I was assigned a research project. I had done, I think, 2 different research projects on the internment of Japanese Americans. That being said, I was not clued in on the details of everyday life in the camps, and Jean really illuminates everything from their first meal where their Caucasian hosts put canned peaches on top of their hot rice, to the toilet situations and how there was literally no personal privacy at all. And it's a very important wartime novel that I feel like I've not heard talked about at all. All in all, I just feel like this is an aspect of American World War II history that is often really overlooked, and I would suggest that you pick this up if you haven't heard anything about internment before, or if you have and haven't read a first-person account. I would definitely check this out. And I gave this one 4 stars. And then the last book that I picked up during the readathon, I only got about 40 pages through, and that was Where We Go When All We Were Is Gone by Sequoia Nagamatsu. This is a very recent release from Black Lawrence Press, and it is basically a collection of short fiction that is all inspired by Japanese folklore and pop culture. So for example, the first story in here is called Return to Monsterland, and it is about a world in which nuclear accidents have spawned Godzilla and other Godzilla-like creatures, and it is about a man and his deceased wife who studied these monsters and thought they were the most beautiful creatures to ever walk the earth. That was separated from the second story in here by this little yokai support group or demon support group flyer, and then the second story was called Rokudo Kubi, which means long neck, and it's basically about this guy who can stretch his neck and explores Tokyo by stretching his head and neck through the sewer system, and how he is estranged from his wife because he doesn't want to tell her his secret. If you can't tell by that description, this is a very weird collection. It is strange and engrossing and kind of beautiful, and I'm really enjoying it so far. I will definitely be doing a separate whole review video on this once I have completed it, but so far I would definitely suggest that you guys go pick this one up. So this was the reading that I accomplished during the 2016 BookTube-A-Thon, and I had a really great time with it. I didn't participate in as much of the Twitter stuff as I did last year, but I had a great time on Snapchat. If you guys participated in the readathon as well, hopefully you got some good reading done. Maybe let me know what your favorite book of the readathon was down in the comments below. And for me, I think it has to be Farewell to Manzanar. It is ridiculously hot in here, so I'm gonna wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you are having a fantastic day. Thank you to Ariel Bissett for putting on the BookTube-A-Thon, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!